Hi, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday, unless for some reason it's Thursday already on your side of the world. Happy New Year. Happy day. I hope it's a good day for you all. And I'm really excited. Thank you so much for joining today for this second episode in this mini series where we get at CEPHR to highlight our partners. And so I'm Tiffany Castano. I am CEO and founder of CEPHR, which is an acronym for Cultivating the Evolution of Professional HR. I'm an HR consultant. I've been in HR for about 15 years now. Love what I do, impacting people, processes, and really making our workplaces better. Culture is my jam, and I have amazing partners who I do this work with, and I have one of them here with me today. But thank you for joining. Thank you for your time, whether you're here live with us or you're on replay. We're streaming live to LinkedIn Live as well as CEPHR's YouTube channel today. And this mini series really came about as a result of one of the values of CEPHR, which is agility. And this partner that I'm bringing on today definitely knows a lot about that. She is a person who I adore and who I've learned a lot of these skills from. But we embraced it right in the making. I was happening to talk to another partner, Gil, who was on our first inaugural episode. And we were discussing the fact that we lean on each other and what are the things that make this work. I said, I'd love to highlight you. And we started talking about it and brainstorming the experience. And that's how this was born. I popped it right on up. I'm so excited for you all to be here to see the partners who we have become friends. And so if this is new to you, that's what we're talking about today. And really, we want to talk about what goes into intentional partnership? How does it work? What's the secret sauce, right? How do you build each other up, create these safe spaces, be an anchor for each other, especially in entrepreneurship, especially in solopreneurship, especially as women entrepreneurs? What does that look like? And how do you give yourself that freedom to be yourself while making each other better at the same time, which is something that every single one of my partners shares. And I'm really excited to bring you in today to the conversation with Meenakshi Iyer. She is founder and principal at NorthStar Solutions and Services, creator of Building My Runway. I'm going to let her tell you more about that too, in her new title that I gifted her, unbeknownst to her, until yesterday when I posted Agile Service Barista at the NorthStar Café. And she can tell you more about her NorthStar Café and nuggets too. I met Meenakshi. I'm going to bring her up now. Hi, Meenakshi.
Hello everyone.
Thank you for joining me. I'm so excited you're here. We just get giddy, the two of us, because we get really excited about what we're doing. But Meenakshi is one of my, if you've heard me use the hashtag or see me use it, 2020 gifts. It is because she is a gift to me as a friend, as a fellow entrepreneur. We lean on each other for our courage and support and just learnings as women. We got our CEPHR t-shirts on today again. That's how we roll. So we're representing, and I'm just so grateful that you're in my life. And I would love for you to tell people more about wonderful you. And I'm excited that I got to meet you finally.
That's
2+
true.
years in the making, we finally got to meet. So tell these people about your wonderful self, please.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. Thank you for the warm welcome. And thank you, everyone who's joining us live and who will catch the replay. First of all, wish you all a very happy new year. Wish you peace and abundance. I'm so glad to be here today. And I think the timing is just perfect. So like Tiffany said, my name is Meenakshi Iyer, and I like to describe myself as a T-shaped community builder, and I'm a lean, agile, and human-centered design practitioner. I have a portfolio career spanning 25 years in different industries, ranging from English as a second language training, HR, all the way up to technology implementation, and primarily in the healthcare space. I moved to the US as an accompanying spouse 14 years ago now. And I'm originally from India and lived and worked in more than 10 different cities between India and the US. And I speak 4 languages. And I know we'll get into that a little bit later in the conversation. But I think that the aspects of my personal life have played a huge role in shaping my professional life and who I am today. Excuse me. So about 3.5 years ago or so, I decided to do something different, pivoted away from my full-time job and a corporate career. And I started NorthStar Solutions and Services. And And I think it was within the first year of me starting that is when Tiffany and I met, and on an online platform. And then we just sort of hit it off, and then we connected, and the rest is history. So in my current role at NorthStar Solutions and Services, which is a boutique future of work oriented coaching, training, and consulting practice, it's virtual, and that was intentional. I started this in August of 2019, and I have most of my career has been in leading and working in virtual teams and multicultural, multilingual teams. And I wanted to sort of preserve that aspect of my professional life. And so what I do at NorthStar is I partner with mid-career, primarily technology professionals, and then I support them in co-creating their leadership and people leadership and change leadership journeys. So I support folks who are transitioning from individual contributor roles to team leader or people leader roles, folks that are taking on new roles or pivoting to a different career altogether. So that's, I've had to restart my career at least 3 different times in the past. So I think I want to sort of pay it forward and share those experiences with others. The one other thing that I focus on is working with people like myself who speak English as an additional language. And believe it or not, our lived experience in the world of work is very different. There's a lot of emotional labor that goes into the constant code switching to keep up with everything that's happening around us. It hardly ever gets talked about. And a lot of countries with a colonial past, like such as India, English speaking abilities are a coveted skill, and it changes the trajectory of your career depending on whether the quality of your English speaking skills. And so those are things that have shaped my outlook on what I want to do in the second phase of my life and career, so to speak. So I know that's a lot of words, so I'm going to pause and give it back to you, Tiffany. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Oh my gosh, thank you for being here. I every time you talk about what you do, it's a little bit different. And of course, I'm more closely connected to it. We've been very connected recently because of some of our collaborations and partnerships that are coming up here. And we'll talk about those in a bit. But I'm so grateful for you always sharing your story. And I love that you just touched on paying it forward. I think as entrepreneurs, as leaders, as people who can pay things forward and help others understand and be better, you're touching the lives of employees and leaders and really helping them embrace a different way of work. And you have been like such a pinnacle when I think about the future of work. We both believe in very progressive workplaces and outside of the box ideas, and we're able to help infuse that into these organizations. But it starts with us, right? It starts with the individual. Before you can even consider partnering with somebody, you have to know yourself. What are your values? And then you move outward to say, who can maybe help grow my business? Who do I want to work with? And who is similarly situated, similarly aligned? And I've met so many amazing people through you and just the work that we do. I've learned so much from you. And those are, when I say intentional partnerships, that is one of the things I really had to lean into in entrepreneurship, because it takes intention, it takes focus. And when you choose your partners, you do have to choose carefully. A lot of the stuff that you talked about just now is under the DEIB principles. And I know that that's a strong value that we both share. So thank you for sharing your story on how you got started and English as a second language. It's so important that people understand we are our business, but we're so much more than that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, and it's I want to acknowledge what you talked about in terms of it starts with us. And that also resonates with me because my official title at NorthStar Solutions and Services is Personal Agility and Self-Leadership Coach. So for me, leadership begins with self. And I always talk about how like each of us is the most important person we'll ever lead. And starting from there, building that self-awareness, building our self-leadership muscle, that also tells me that leadership has very little to do with positional power or titles or authority by way of hierarchy. I think each of us has the potential to be a leader in our own spaces and with whatever it is that we do and how we show up. And I think that took me a bit of time to learn in my own career, where the models that were known to me at the time, leadership involved having a team, having people reporting to you. It involved having decision-making power, if you will, right? So it was always associated with power that was given by someone else. And then, very quickly I reached a point in my life and my career where that did not sit well with me, because then that means that that's something that's outside of my control, that I have no influence over, because if somebody gives me a title, they can as easily take it away as well, right? And then when I work with my one-on-one coaching clients, the individual coaching clients, that's the piece we try to work on, is to carve out your own narrative around what leadership looks like for you and what is your style of leadership. And it has nothing to do with whether you're an individual contributor or whether you have people reporting to you. There's so much that each of us can do in just how we do our day-to-day work. There's so much out there where we can actually show and live our leadership qualities, and it has nothing to do with anyone else. And that has become sort of the cornerstone of one of the cornerstones of my work and also my practice.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That's so powerful, right? Like we keep talking about power. There are different levels of power, and we can use our powers and our positional power for good. I see that John here is acknowledging personal versus positional power.
Absolutely. Well
Yeah,
said.
the essentialness of knowing your value. And that's one of the things that we share in common too, is helping other people. We have stepped into our power that way, and we are helping other people. We talked about self-promotion and what it
Yes.
looks like to lead self before trying to lead others. And so I'm so glad that you shared those nuggets with us. Do you want to tell people about, speaking of nuggets, of NorthStar Café and Building My Runway? I just think, how you leaned into that and the agility with which you did it and how much I celebrate that. I really want people to hear more about these programs and what that looks like, how you're helping people and what the impact has been.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. And I want to talk about some of the collaborative work we've done, because that's what led to Building My Runway. So, with your permission, I'd like to talk about that.
Permission
Uh,
granted.
yeah. So it was August of 2020 that we met, and I see Akua here. Hey, Akua.
Hey.
Uh, and I think it was in your workshop that the two of us met. I think so. It was something coffee chat related, but I know that you are another mutual connection, and I do enjoy that. Hi, John, and I'm just looking at the chat just now. So we met, and then I think I was doing another conference, and that was with Hema. I was doing that conference on unpacking intersectionality, and that was October of 2020. And we had you as one of our panelists for that workshop, and that focus on that was really taking an intersectional lens to understand diversity, equity, inclusion. And intersectionality, again, was a concept that it's picking up some much needed attention off late. But back when we did it 3 years ago, it was still a new concept. And I know for sure that there were at least 3 people that in my network that have told me that I introduced them to that concept, which was bittersweet for me, in that I was like, okay, at least there's awareness, and I felt good about being part of that, forwarding the message, or being part of the ripple effect. But at the same time, I was like, okay, this is such a crucial concept, and we need to understand it. Otherwise, a lot of the DEI work, I think, is incomplete. And the reason I say this, and I want to digress a little bit, I think my lived experience in India and my lived experience in the US, I've experienced discrimination in both countries, but the basis of that has been different. So in India, it's about when somebody looks at me, my identity is based on, of course, my gender, my skin color, my name, because that tells people where I'm from, which part of the country I'm from, and what languages potentially I could speak. So there's so much of information. If you're from India, you can tell so much about a person without even ever meeting them or knowing them, just from their name. And so, and then how I speak English, how different it is from the wherever I am, right? So every region has its own accent and things like that. So I've experienced all of those aspects of discrimination in India. At the same time, the fact that I belong to a certain caste is a point of privilege for me in India, depending on where I am again. And my English fluency is a point of privilege for me as well. Yeah, but in the U.S., caste and language proficiency, caste primarily, doesn't even figure here. Right here, my primary identity, apart from, of course, being visibly female, is that of an immigrant. The fact that I am probably am not from here. So the lived experience in my personal and professional life have been always marked by discrimination, but different aspects of it. And that's why I got interested in thinking about, okay, there has to be some sort of a framework. And that's when I came across Professor Kimberly Crenshaw's work on intersectionality. Anyway, so that was another point of intersection between you and I, and between CEPHR and NorthStar, is one of our shared values, as you said, core values of inclusion, and then the work that we did. And that sort of laid the foundation, I would say, to the rest of the work that we did. And so when it was 2021, I'd done this conference in 2020. That was my first time doing it, and I was too scared to call it a conference. I called it a webinar series. I still remember that, and it was all done live, and I had these. It was a 5-day event, and I had 3 sessions across different time zones because I hit every possible time zone, and it was just me, and I was doing it full time at the time. And it was a fantastic, rewarding experience. And I remember reaching out to you saying, "Hey, I do this thing. Do you think you might want to be my co-host?" And you readily agreed. So my concept for that conference was future of work. And the inaugural conference was around future of work and the fourth industrial revolution, really bringing in folks from within my network. That's what I did. I brought in people from within my network from different parts of the world to talk about what does the future of work look like, be it from an organizational standpoint or from an overall business standpoint and from an individual standpoint. What does it all mean, and what do we as individuals and organizations need to do to prepare for it? It was like this giant party because all these people from different parts of the world, some would make it to all the sessions, and so it was a lot of fun. And then you absolutely so readily agreed, and I was so grateful for that. And excited to say that this year will be our 3rd year doing it together. So yeah, that's our future of work conference, and we have tagged it to the International Women's Day event for the last two years. So ever since we've been doing it together, we still retain the future of work aspect of it, but then we've tied it to the International Women's Day piece. So, and I'm going to park the rest of it because I'd love for you to share more about our upcoming conference, because I know you've started planning already. The reason I wanted to give this backstory is in 2021, the first year that you and I did the conference together, that's the other thing that's common between us, and that's a shared value, is we always want to create bias for action. And we were both very intentional about leaving every session. So that year we did 4 sessions over 4 different Saturdays. We always used to hand out a call to action to our audience, and loved that piece of it. And there was a panel discussion that we did, and Akua was one of our panelists. We talked about mentorship in that panel, and so Building My Runway was really my response to that call to action that was put out there, right? So I still remember one of the questions we had asked our audience is, what is it that you can do in your own ecosystem? How can you serve as a mentor or connect people who need mentors, something like that. And when we were doing our debrief conversation after the conference, I started toying around with this idea. And for me, initially, when the idea came up, it was about how can I find companies that will sponsor that whole program. So it was beginning to take root in my brain. And then I'm like, wait a minute, that's like a lot of things outside of my control. It was like, how about I just develop this program and run the program? And that's how Building My Runway was born. And I know you have so graciously participated in both. We have had 2 cohorts so far, and you've been a part of our graduation ceremonies, and you've been a speaker as well. So that's Building My Runway. It's a global and a virtual mentorship program for mid-career women in technology. So anywhere from 8 to 15 years of experience, helping them get set up for success and launch their own careers, take it to the next level. So that's the whole idea of Building My Runway. And it's some of the program design is inspired by McKinsey's model of 3 by 3 by 3, which is 3 goals, 3 accountability partners, 3 months. That's the learning grid that they have. So it's a little bit based in that, but the rest of the design, I did it all based on my own past experience with mentorship, both formal and informal, and with a lot of input from our conversations as well, Tiffany. So for those of you that are watching or will catch the replay, the program design is a mix of one-on-one mentorship and group learning. So it's cohort-based learning and individual learning. I bring mentors from within my network. So the mentors volunteer their time, and the mentees, as of last year, they just pay a small fee to cover all my admin costs, because we started using some technology, which is Dreamy, the platform. That was another collaboration that we had. So Building My Runway so far has had 2 cohorts, and we've had 11 in the first cohort and 5 in the second cohort. And the second cohort actually ended up being the most diverse, because we had people from 4 continents and 5 languages between the 5 of them. So it was a wonderful experience. So they get paired with a mentor. And in this cohort's case, we had 2 mentors and a mentee. And it's a 3-month program. And they're provided all of the program structure support. So I provide that to both the mentees and the mentors. And they work on 1 to 3 professional or personal goals of their choosing with their mentors. And we also do a lot of cohort-based learning, including myself, where we do a lot of group coaching and group learning as well. This past cohort, we had the I Am Remarkable workshop that Akua facilitated for the cohort. And Tiffany came and talked to us about DEI in the work environment. So that's about Building My Runway.
Thank you so much. And I'm glad thank you for inviting me to the graduations always too, and being inclusive yourself. You really model those things. You're so inclusive that way, and I appreciate it. And even the first year I didn't speak, but you still, as a partner, invited me to come in and check that out. And it was so inspiring to hear the various ways. And there's a common thread throughout how people really appreciate your time, your efforts that go into it. It's been very touching to me to hear that, how you're impacting people's lives, how meaningful the tools and resources you're giving them are. They have each other, they have a mentor.
Yes.
You have to set people up for success. And wow, you talked about 5 languages, 4 continents. I don't even think I realized that, and just being a part of those conversations and interacting with everybody. But that's just the beauty of it, right? And it's about providing that access. It's one of the things that's important about our conference every year. And gender equity is a huge thing, pay equity for us. We have been marching on that soapbox for so long. And this year we've started our planning already for our conference. So hold the date of March 15th. We have confirmed
Yes.
the date. So we're really excited for this conference. And we're putting our straw man together right now, our straw person. And so you'll hear more about that. But we're going to talk about equity and burnout and what that looks like. And we are just so excited. We have some fun stuff planned already. And so you'll start to hear more about that probably over the next 2-3 weeks. And we just love doing that. So really excited that I've been able to partner up with you on that thing. We talked about kind of some of the reasons and how we came into partnership as to like why it was important or why you valued with CEPHR in terms of being, paired up here. And I'm so grateful. I do want to show John's comment too, because I'd love for you to react to this. I just love the way you think. And so he's talking about these constructs of intersectionality, and John's brain is just a beautiful brain. And just love hearing him speak. And the two of you would probably have some rich conversations as well. But I just want to see, like, what do you think about what he's sharing here and what that looks like from these tenets of the organization?
I agree with what John is saying in that when we design for any systems or processes, anything that has anything to do with human beings, I think the fundamental aspect has to be intersectionality, because so here's my thing, right? I know there's a lot of these couplets, if you will, about diversity and inclusion, and mine is that diversity is a fact of life, and inclusion is a choice, is a choice we make, that we choose how to interact with this fact. So for me, my struggle, especially in the US and now even in India, with the general DEI programs and initiatives has been that I think one, diversity, a lot of these start with chasing diversity statistics, right? And we have corporations publish those statistics as well. And I have had personal experience of working in or with such companies that have absolutely fantastic looking diversity statistics. But once you go in, you know that I can tell in like 1 or 2 meetings that, oh, where's the inclusion piece? That's like totally lost. Do I feel I belong? So that's the other piece. And I know you and I have had so many conversations around belonging. So that's the other thing. Just because you've been invited doesn't mean you're welcomed. So are you really being, are you accepted for who you are, or are you being tolerated, or is there conditional acceptance? So there's all these different layers, right? And I've experienced, I think, all of that to varying degrees in different interactions, both at work. I went to grad school here. I did my executive MBA here, and that was a very interesting experience, personally, professionally, and also from a cultural standpoint as well. So I think that, first of all, diversity looks different in different parts of the world and different geographies and cultures. There may be some underlying principles that are similar to these different ecosystems, but diversity looks different. And so inclusion, how you practice inclusion needs to be different in the sense of what are you focused on including, right? And that will vary based on what diversity issues you're dealing with. And so that's one. So I think that holding or looking at all this with an intersectional lens really, I think that's what makes these initiatives portable from one ecosystem to another, because then you are open to looking at, okay, what are the different layers of identities involved in this particular culture or ecosystem? So if you talk about race in India, it's not a big thing at all. So in India, most of the DEI initiatives are focused around gender, because that's one of the biggest issues, equity and parity from a gender standpoint. However, caste plays a bigger role as well. So here, how we talk about, for example, when we talk about pay equity, and I know there's this statistic and this visual that talks about, a woman makes X cents for every dollar a man makes. And I know that as an Asian, okay, that's the other thing. I don't even have a box to tick most of the time in most of the forms. Asian American, I check that box, but I know that most people's understanding of what Asian American is, I don't fit in that box. I know that. But until and unless there is an Indian box, which again is misunderstood, I'm not an American Indian. So, and if you actually step back from all of this and start thinking about who made these definitions, it's not people who look like me who made these definitions. I'm being forced to fit into boxes that I didn't create in the first place. So taking that intersectional lens helps us to say, okay, what are the different identities or layers of identities that are present in any culture or any geography, however you want to look at it. And so I think it's a must-have for us to step into any of this work, be it in the field of education, like John is referring to, or in how we design our work policies within organizations, leadership practices. So I think that adopting that lens, and you may not know, don't have to know what are the different intersections, but just being open to the idea that identity is not a singular, it's not singular. It's not a singular entity, that it is nuanced and that it has different layers, just being open to that idea.
I love that. Thank you there's a couple of things that I want to share some thoughts on as it relates to that. And one of those, I actually was talking to another colleague so I'm in Pittsburgh now. A bunch of people know that I'm from Wisconsin. And so I was talking to another trusted, respected HR colleague earlier, and we were talking about workplace policy. We were talking about the intersectionality and how she happens to be another Black woman, like how at our intersections, things like even funeral time and even in other cultures like that, we have these blanket kind of policies that don't cover everyone. There are cultures where the body has to be buried right away. There is an embalming involved. There are cultures where in Black culture, it may take a week to get the funeral underway because we wait for folks to come in and we're going to go be family. And different cultures look at things differently, and the way grief and death are handled is different. And so I know that we share that as a value too. And so that's what came up for me when you were saying that. I appreciate just the way, the lens you look through. And that's kind of what connects us too in this partnership. Even though we have totally different disciplines, they are aligned. We share aligned values. And the other thing you said was around conditional acceptance. And I think it relates in the DEIB space too. And thank you for telling folks about the B, belonging, because I too have had those situations where I'm like, yeah, you think you're including me, and yeah, you put me on the meeting invite. I'm sitting in this Zoom room or this live, room in person, but I don't feel like I belong. And I can't count how many times that has happened.
Yes.
In our partnership, that kind of segues into the question I have for you. Do you want to add on?
Yes, I do want to share a personal experience when you talked about belonging and you said Zoom room. So I have noticed that when I'm in these sort of public workshops where I'm an attendee, and when you're put in these breakout rooms, I'll be the last one to be called on to participate. You know why? My theory is that people don't know how to pronounce my name. And it's more often than not, I'm the only one who looks like me. So between that and I was like, I wish people would just ask or just say my last name or something, and include me. This is my theory. And it's been confirmed by another friend of mine who was in a workshop that I was conducting. And we were in this conversation, and we were a small group, and somebody called on her right away, and she said, "Oh, I wasn't prepared for that. Usually people don't know what to do with my name, so I'm the last one to go." And I'm like, "Oh, you and I both." So to me, these are some, and nobody's doing that intentionally. I know that. I can tell from the group that I'm in, right? But these are the things that we can do as individuals to promote And you don't have to be a leader. You don't have to have any of those fancy titles, right? You as an individual has the power to change how every individual feels within the spaces that you inhabit.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
when you said Zoom room, that triggered to me.
Those are the ripple effects, though, right? And every single one of us can control that. Organizations feel like this is too big of an initiative and an undertaking. No, it's not. Not if you want to engage your teams, not if you want to retain them, not if you want to have a best in class culture. And I'm not even going to start getting down the deep soapbox because I could go on for weeks. Nobody has time for that. I'll save that for my own clients and prospects. But I think, in the larger community, because people, we're both very active on LinkedIn, and people know that I get on my soapbox about these things often, proudly, very proudly. And it's that important to the workplace, to the work that we're doing. And each of us can control that. And we have, we all are self-led, as you were talking before. And so it's also about this bias for action. It's the call to action, making sure that is everywhere and we share that. And so I'm appreciating and resonating with everything you're saying. I'm soaking it in. And in terms of this conditional acceptance and some of the things that we're talking about on, maybe the common threads of why it works together, like, what else do you think works in this partnership that you would love to tell other people about, or that, sometimes we feel lonely, right? We feel like
Mm-hmm.
we're on an island, especially as solopreneurs. Like, what else do you feel like works in our partnership that you would advise other people, or what would you like to share on that note?
Oh yeah, I think uh, to me there's like three or four aspects or reasons why you and I and our practices are aligned. One is there's a lot of trust, and that comes from this shared understanding and having. We're very aligned with our core values, right? So inclusion is one of my biggest values. Fairness and respect and empathy. Those are the others. So I had made some points actually. I wanted to make sure I brought those up. That's what I'm looking at right now. So my core values, or the core values for North Star, it's fairness, integrity, inclusion, respect, and empathy. And I think out of these, definitely inclusion is something that's common for the two of us. And I think we also approach our work from a service mindset. We are both about building communities, and I know that you do such amazing work in that space, and you are very connected with the local community where you live and work. And the recent Jefferson Award is a testament to that. So congratulations.
Thank you.
So I think that there's a lot of that. So to me, it's about trust, alignment in our core values, and from a business standpoint, I would say, having an overlap and or intersections in our services and or the type of clients. So for example, with your work, I find that the services that I offer are adjacent to what you do, because you are helping leaders and organizations set up their people practices using DEI principles and ensuring that there's equity in what they do, right? So to me, I find that with my coaching and training and consulting services, I bring in um, I bring in some of the technology pieces as well, frameworks such as Agile and human-centered design and lean thinking. And I found that that's a great mix. And I think that our HR folks understanding how that world works and how they can actually, more than how that world works, understanding how they could bring those principles and practices in building culture and building equity within the systems that they are creating. So I think that the work that I do and the services that I offer are complementary to what you do. So if there are others who are listening or will listen later on, if you're solopreneurs, I think building your network in such a way that your services are, or whatever it is that you do, they are either overlapping or they are adjacent or they intersect with others. I think that's a great aspect to focus on when you're building out your networks and partnerships.
I love that. And thank you for sharing that. And, as I've had conversations with other founders, entrepreneurs, as you have, I'm sure, that this is the way that many of us, especially who are similarly situated in a solopreneurship, how we're scaling and growing.
Yes.
And I really appreciate these partnerships because it also, when you look at diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, it gives my business more value. It gives my clients more value. We're putting out a better workplace, work product to impact these workplaces through our combined skills. And it's, together is better, as I always say. And what one person can do, two or more can do better, right? We don't need to
Absolutely.
do it alone. And so a lot of what I talk about on LinkedIn and in my work with my clients, it is not like about this silo. It's not about Meenakshi working in her lane at NorthStar Solutions and Services. Absolutely, because you're amazing at what you do. I can't do what you do. I can come in and support and collaborate. And it's the same. You're not an HR professional, though you have some HR experience, right? So that works again to our advantage. But it's leveraging the difference. And when you look at DEIB overall, that's really what it is. So like, one of the beautiful things I love about our partnership is that we're modeling that for other people. We're modeling what it looks like to partner with and celebrating and embracing our differences and bringing those things to pay things forward and to create the bias for action to help other people understand and help them move forward. Human potential is something that we both celebrate moving forward. And so I think that that's just so amazing and so important. And the other piece of that is some people will hoard their knowledge, right? In the workplace. I'm sure some people have these colleagues who do that. I've been a part of those work environments. And it can be that way in entrepreneurship too, and business ownership. And there's enough for us all to go around. I love making referrals. I can't service everyone myself. And if I try, I'm not going to do it well, right? So it's about that, knowing what your sweet spot and unique value proposition is, but not being afraid to share that across. I love that I can spread that wealth and we share the revenue of like whatever that looks like, or share the time or the energy and effort that goes into something. That is the beauty of creating these wonderful partnerships and being super, super intentional about it. Because you don't want to partner with people who don't have your values, or who, you'd be like, oh, what's going to happen to my brand if we are all one brands. So that's some of the stuff that I appreciate too. I really appreciated what you shared.
Absolutely. And a couple of things that you said, that reminded me and it resonated with me. So my two basic operating principles ever since I've started NorthStar Solutions and Services is, number one, give before you get. And you talk about it all the time as well. And the second one is collaboration over competition. And I think that with you and in our partnership, I found that there's mutual respect for that, and there's shared respect and understanding of these two principles. And I know you always talk about together is better. That always reminds me of this ancient African proverb, right? If you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And so I think that I totally agree with you. And I also love, the other thing that I love about our partnership is there's also the personal side to it. So we come to it as as human beings, as people, and so we sound off ideas off of each other. We vent to each other, or we even have started this the terrific trio. Yes.
You'll meet her next week. She's coming on.
Yes.
Partner of both of ours.
Yes, and I met her through you, so that's how we're growing the circle. And we find, I think, we come up with ideas, we critique each other's work, we provide feedback. There's so much of this intangible value that we provide to one another, and I think that it can't be put into words. And I think that that's what, at least for me, being a solopreneur, all this partnership and this friendship is what makes it work. Otherwise, like you said earlier, entrepreneurship by itself is a arduous journey. But then if you are a solopreneur, then I think that's that much harder. But if you're able to find people with common shared values, and also with whom you feel there's a lot of trust and psychological safety. That's the other piece. And I want to bring up today's examples. I know we talked about, we started our conference planning, and I had a little bit of time this morning, so I reached out to some folks, and I knew that all I had to do was copy you an email, and I didn't have to ask you or get it agreed upon before doing something, right? And I know you do the same. And I think that sort of comfort and fluency comes from holding that psychologically safe space.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you for that, because how many partnerships or work relationships, leader to direct report relationships, how many times do we hear that people are not, like, people are afraid of that, right? Like, they're afraid to bring something forward, and that has to be a pinnacle. Trust in any relationship has to be foundational, but that's how you get stuff done too. And we get stuff done. Like, we will be texting, we will be emailing, we will be LinkedIn, whatever. We're very resourceful too, and we're agile. That is something that you have brought to my life and my practice as an HR practitioner. I was starting on that journey, but have learned so much from you. So HR folks out there, yes, embrace agility. We are not transactional. We're moving to transformational. And if you're in this entrepreneurship space, making sure that you can adjust. We can take on some risks, some calculated risk, but it's important to just try stuff on. That is a pinnacle in entrepreneurship. You got to be able to just try it on. And sometimes people get stuck, and if one partner's stuck and the other one is like, oh, can we, our businesses are very different and they look different. Our structures, our models, our clients are different who we serve, even overlap considered. But we have different schedules, right? So we can't be always waiting till the end of the day or like trying to catch each other first thing in the morning. And you have to be able to trust each other that, like, if you send something out on a leap of faith, that I'm not going to freak out on you, right? And it's like that with all my partners. It's so important. And we will do this checking in. You and I do this. I do this with every other partner too, of like, how are things? Is it okay? Do you have feedback for me? And it's a safe space to provide feedback. And we ask for that feedback. We solicit that from each other. And that is a sign of psychological safety too.
Absolutely.
You don't trust each other, go ahead and send that out. I'm like, oh, she's on it. Like, we'll have these texts about like, oh, thank you for handling that. Gail, same thing. Like, we have this trust. And it's so amazing to be able to do that, because it helps me as an entrepreneur. We have a million things on our mind, sleep better, knowing that I have a partner who is equal in this, who shares those values, and who's going to make sure we get it done and that we deliver a quality product. So I just got all of my emotions. Oh gosh, I see Marissa is agreeing. She's amazing as well.
Yeah, and I met her through you. Through our
Yeah.
last LinkedIn.
Oh my gosh. And I wanted to mention John's talking about advocacy. Let me put this up on the screen here, of navigating diversity appreciation from the cultural competency. Yes, bias reduction, engineering that sound foundation. And we have to have that. When we talk about justice, I think people think, oh, that's just a community thing. That doesn't really apply to the workplace. We're not that agency. We're not that company. But to the point that he's making here too, it is a central construct. It has to be central. Every single person wants to feel like they belong, whether it's Meenakshi and I and our relationship and our partnership, whether it's an employee at work, in society, we just want to belong. And so I think that, these things cannot be understated. And so hopefully these have been interesting information.
Absolutely. I just wanted to add one more thing to what you said. I think that how we operate, we work synchronously and asynchronously. And because there is so much of trust, we can have a quick catch up that is synchronous, right? That's our synchronous connect point. And then we can go do so many things asynchronously with the assurance that the other person will get it, or I don't have to explain myself to the other person or my team, right? The reason I want to bring that up is that this is an extension. So this is not just for entrepreneurs or solopreneurs. This is how, when we talk about future of work and how ways of working are changing and constantly evolving, successful asynchronous work is foundational to organizational success. And I'm just reading John's point here, a comment here. You cannot effectively build a competent future without trust. Absolutely. Something my mentor coach Priya Ramesh once had shared in my conversation with her, and I think she had read it somewhere. Trust enables speed. One of the most powerful three-word sentences I've heard. Trust enables speed. Because otherwise, you imagine, just like you were talking about that, Tiffany, within teams, and let's imagine you're in a geographically distributed team and you're working in different time zones and things like that. So much of our the waste in the system, if you're a lean thinker or a practitioner, you talk about waste. Waiting is a type of waste. So when you wait for approvals or you are unsure of how others might react and things like that, that one it is caused by a lack of trust and an abundance of micromanagement and a sense of control, and it's also a lack of psychological safety. So these are very human skills, and these are human emotions. And in the modern day workplace, we think that it's all about technology and process, but it really is about the core human skills. And so to me, the call out I wanted to make was what we are sharing, what Tiffany and I are sharing, is as applicable in the workplace if you're an employee, or if you're even if you're not a solopreneur or an entrepreneur. This is as applicable and as relevant.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. So much of this translates across. And maybe you are an employee now and you're considering becoming an entrepreneur, or you become an entrepreneur, and these become skills that we put into place. And I'm so glad that you talked about that. And I was like, she's right in my head, because that was where I was going next, is that these are things for the future of work too. And these are things that organizations, teams are facing right now. And the way that, in fact, another partner, even one of the clients we work on together had said, so do you ever see each other? Like, how does this work? And it created this curiosity, because like, you work so well as a team, and how do you do this? And it's like, yes, it can be done. And of course, there are certain things that are better in person, and we're not trying to say all that either. But there is absolutely an argument for the hybrid model, and it works well. We worked together before I met you in, what was it, summer of 2022?
Yeah.
For over 2 years.
Yes, we had done 3 conferences together.
3 by that point. That's right, because the other one passed. Yeah. Amazing. It's like, don't sleep on the power of asynchronous work. And it's based on the foundations of the values and the things that you talked about psychological safety. If you have those things, the rest will follow. You can figure it out. And we can help you too if you need some tech help. So, but I love that you talked about waste too, because people are buying these tools. We're speaking of tools and tech and waste. People are buying tools to spy on people. Why are we micromanaging our folks that way? Trust people to do it and own your piece in that, and be self-led as a leader so that you can lead your teams. So that's, I'll get off that box too. But I guess as we're winding down here, what do you hope for? What are you looking forward to for, maybe the rest of our partnership or over the next year, besides our conference that's coming up?
Well, conference was top of my list. I'm really looking forward to that. And save the date, everyone. Once again, Wednesday. Yes, Wednesday, March 15th. So we're doing it exactly a week from International Women's Day, so that you can finish all of your other International Women's Day events and then come to ours and experience the difference. I'm just being pompous here, intentionally.
That's true.
So that's, of course. And then I'm also looking forward to having you over again as a speaker, or I have yet to figure that out, but then Building My Runway cohort number 3. So I'm looking forward to having you be a part of that in some way, shape, or form. And then, the other thing that I want to talk about and also express my gratitude for is you every year you sponsor an attendee for one of my workshops. And that means a lot to me. And I really, really appreciate that. So that's another form of collaboration. And it's really a big gift from your side. So I really appreciate that.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, yeah. So, and then I'm hoping that given that this year I am focused on NorthStar 100% of my time. So, yeah, that's a sidebar. So, for folks who don't know that, for the past 2 years, I've held long-term engagements or contract work or full-time work to fund my business. But effective January of this year, I'm focused on NorthStar 100% of my time. So I'm I'm very excited about it, and I know Tiffany, you and I have talked about this, and I call this like, oh, when Tiffany sent me a message, I think earlier this week, and how's it going? I said like, this is a blank canvas day for me. I said, so I'm really excited to see what emerges, and I see a lot of space and time for more collaboration to happen. Partner with you and complement the services that you provide to your clients. Any opportunities for that?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm so excited. Thank you so much. I'm definitely excited for the conference, especially since we're right in planning mode and just for our friendship to continue to flourish.
Yes.
We laughed so much together. Like yesterday, I was just like, I know you can tell I'm punchy because I had all this fire 23 energy that I came into the year with, and hope to continue that momentum and just like not blocking my blessings. And you are definitely one of those. NorthStar is one of those. CEPHR is one of those. This beautiful community. Thank you to all of you who joined us live and will be on replay and who support us so fiercely. We cannot truly, you can't do this alone. And so even if you are in your business by yourself, you're never alone. I just said that to another woman entrepreneur last night when we caught up. But Meenakshi was so kind when we did meet. She and her husband had my husband and I over for a delicious meal. She's an amazing cook as well. And we just fellowshipped and talked, and it was just beautiful. Marissa, who's here, we shared a meal together in person here in Pittsburgh. So just lean on your community and, it's just such a beautiful thing when you give before you get. Beautiful things will come from that, and the momentum will just flourish. So thank you all for being here. I mean, actually, certainly thank you to you. Any last nuggets you want to share with anybody, with the crowd, or any wisdom or takeaways?
Well, I just want to leave everyone with, I want to just share my beliefs. There's three. One is lead from wherever you are. And two, lead self before leading others. And three, lead with your head, heart, and hands.
I love that. I love that you talk about leading with your head, heart, and hands. It's just so beautiful. And watching your evolution has been wonderful. I've loved being a part of your journey. I'm so excited for this new entrepreneurship. Obviously, Marissa was just sharing that as well. And so welcome again. And this is great. And she's putting #embrace because she knows that that's my impact word for 23. Never had an impact word before. I wasn't one of those like, choose your word for New Year's. No shade to people who do, but until I hit entrepreneurship, because it's a different discipline and it's not always easy, and you got to lean into these things. And so she knows that embrace is my word for this year, as do you. But yeah, bookmark March 15th. We are going to be sharing more details on our annual conference that's coming up. We have an amazing keynote speaker lined up and just so much more greatness. Please send us a note, a DM, anything if you need to learn more about what we talked about today. If you're leaning into some partnerships or you're trying to figure out how to navigate this, what's the best way? What should I be considering? Please do let us know. If you have questions about what Meenakshi does or I do, or we can support you, please do let us know. How else can people get in touch with you outside of LinkedIn, Meenakshi?
My website. LinkedIn is mostly where I hang out. My website, northstaratwork.com. And LinkedIn, of course. Those are my two main spaces. There's a link to setting up a virtual coffee with me through my website. So you can use that as well to come chat with me.
Love it. That will be a coffee worth having, I tell you. Set up a virtual coffee. Yes, and I'm on LinkedIn as well. You can reach me and CEPHR at CEPHRconsulting.com. Thank you all for your time and energy. Happy 23. We will see you on the other side of this. And actually, I'll be back next week, Wednesday. We'll be talking to another partner. So stay tuned. Have a wonderful day and week. And we are cheering you on in your corner here from CEPHR and Meenakshi. So take care, everybody. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.